questioning. Here is the Open Thinking Dude podcast, broadcasting on Spreaker and iHeartRadio.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Bit of It Show.
What's going on today, ladies and gents, people of all nations? This is Matt Mosteller on the Open Thinking Dude podcast on October 2nd, the year 2014. I just want to give some plug-ins to Transformation Talk Radio. It's a good radio network. It is not about the literal, but it's the truth of spirituality and questioning to open up to all possibilities. Listen to Transformation Talk Radio. Also, I want to give a plug in to the Views Expressed with the Reverend Wayne S. Pierce. He comes on Spreaker, so he is really good. Also, Late Night in the Midlands with Ryan Gables and Michael Vera. And I have to say, to the atheist side, Atheist on Air, pretty good. Give a plug in, and also Dogma Debate. Those shows make you question. Even Michael Vera and Late Night in the Midlands and the Views Expressed with the Reverend Wayne S. Pierce, they make you think, they make you question. So, it's not good to be spoon-fed. And to all the other shows out there too. It's good. I also want to give a plug-in, and this is a free one right here. This is a free one. To the families and the people of North Carolina, that's where I'm from originally, North Carolina, I want to say, Bojangles, if you like good, crispy, spicy, kind of Creole chicken, regional, it's not national, but it's a regional restaurants, go to Bojangles. They're on East Main Street in Lincoln, North Carolina. If you out there, if you any of those Lincoln people from my Twitter, you know, come out and they got a good breakfast too. So, So I just want to get those plug-ins out of the way, and I'm going to start the show. The title is God's Character from the Bible. And you know, being at one time a literalist, born-again evangelical believer, my first thoughts of God's character was holy, loving, kind, sweet, generous. What else? There's more, and etc. See, I had a list, the pro list. So it was kind and all those things. But, you know, if we really read the Bible and really see, there is a con list, the negative list. And I really want to get into God's character from the Bible. And I don't want to be one-sided, like on the atheist view or believer's view. We need to have everybody who is a real believer, that God is all holy, loving. They need to wake up. I had to wake up because I was praying. I'm not negating yet at this point in my life. There's no God. There is a higher essence, I think. There is a spiritual conscience. But this literalist of God from the Bible and the Quran and other places like that, it's hard for me to believe. And today, I like to talk about God's character from the Bible. And I gave you a list of what I believed in my preconceived notion of ideas of believer in the Lord God and His Son Jesus. But now I want to get into the aspects of God's character that shows that it's a human invention. Could be a human invention. And I would like to say the first character that God shows that looks and acts like a man and woman, God has a desire. And you say, it's natural. God has to speak to man and woman on their terms, not his terms. But just think, again, I've said in previous podcasts, what is the definition of God? If God is God, he doesn't need a desire to do anything. He's sufficient in his own self. So, when he has to have a desire, it shows a characteristic of a man and woman instead of a God. So, you got to think, is this really God? That he has to have a desire? I mean, it sounds almost like the gods of Rome and Greece. So, just think, this God has to have a desire. The number two on the list. God is jealous. And now, we look, and I've said this again in previous shows, but I want to reiterate this. You've got to reiterate stuff where people's minds can receive it. So that's why I'm reiterating this characteristic. God is jealous. Why is God jealous? Well, he wants to be worshipped. But yet he turns around to his people and says, do not be jealous, because jealousy is a sin. And yet he says, I'm a jealous God in the scripture in the Old Testament. I don't know exactly, but I know it's in there. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. Just type in, if you use a computer, on your concordance, type in jealous and see, and it shows. It says God is a jealous God somewhere in the Old Testament. I think it's Exodus. So, it shows right there that God is a jealous God. And if you're a God, why do you got to be jealous? If somebody's worshiping something, you know, again, the definition of God, you're self-sufficient. You don't need any admirers. Yourself, you as an entity is perfect. You don't need anything to awe you. Your essence is enough to keep you from wanting to be awed by a lower creature in the definition of what God is. So, with that, I'm going to hit on a break, and when I come back, I will talk about a few other characteristics of God's character from the Bible. But stay tuned and keep listening to the Open Thinking Dude podcast on Spreaker and iHeartRadio. It's going to get better. Hopefully it will get better.
Hip-hop vaquero, you want my styles like Hierro, dancing on my words on the edge of sombrero. The gringos sing flows, yes, the cockatoy. Kill Agnes with a glance from the pupil of annoyed. A mic stored in underwear drawers of my dresser. Rhymes from True God, yours is child of a lesser. A lowercase G hanging under the bar. My G's above and beyond and shining bright from afar like North Star. Guided me to gifts in the manger, Dr. Stranger. Like Blase Blah bringing danger. Infermo, subharmonico sick. Stand tall, surfing ink from Bic. Push the click, now I'm running. Leading down the L-pen shaft. And spin a phonograph to exercise a paragraph. Epitaph from killing off the flesh with 808. A low frequency to give you something to hate. We tie words up tight with lasso. With art from the soul, Pablo Picasso. And paintbrush in my discussion. When we touching, time sublime with Pablo. We tie words up tight with lasso. With art from the soul, Pablo Picasso. And paintbrush in my discussion. When we touching, rushing, it's like that.
Yo, I ride upon the trail, my heart's pumping oxygen like Indians and moccasins. I've been cheated and crossed, tossed aside. My tribe's trying to survive. If the government's rise never came, so I strain the breakdance from fools to the presence action change. Who shot the sheriff? I'm embarrassed by the trickery. So some come aboard the bandwagon of hickory. My lazy eye gives that warning. Watch your step. My six shooters mark with an immense love for death. A true desperado, my model's prostate and plus. If you step, you'll end up in the wooden box in the dust. The earth's crossed, my happy underground wild Bill couldn't tame. You get gunned down, it's about the fortune and fame. Spit out like tobacco, the names look upon as evil. Taking scalps and wolves back till I change the strange God upon my people. All my people.
I manipulate metaphors, bring the medication to heal hip-hop's many sores. Rushing through the corridors and the middle, in the middle. I fit them with life's riddles and break them down to little riddles. I'm that multitasking, clean up your wasteful chatter like some canine fecal matter. Drop it in the bag and make the quick dash to make sure that it goes out with the morning trash. I'm that problem solving for all them questions asking, and you up and coming has-been. See, I was raised on rapping, kicks are where I tap, and the stairs is where I'm clapping. Most mistake rocking from a swim, they call me the sacrificial No joke, I smoke my O's, those are the pose, the one who rose and claim the status lazy. They say they're underground and that they are my replacement. Even want you back down in the basement, but I continue to pound the pavement, stay fly just like a spaceship, minister through entertainment.
We tie words uptight with lasso, with art from the soul, Pablo Picasso, and paintbrush in my discussion when we touching time sublime with rap flow. We tie words uptight with lasso, with art from the soul, Pablo Picasso, and paintbrush in my discussion when we touching, brushing his like Van Gogh.
Paragraphs of intellect encompassing lines of ill, cloning pin marks of past success to fit the bill. So I chill and wait for the intro to my verse, a perfect fit.
I am back, and we are talking about God's character from the Bible. And I've went over two of them. One was God has a desire, and the other one is God is jealous, and the third one, God shows anger. How do you say how God shows anger? If you don't exactly obey him, he's going to burn the living hell out of you, or he's going to kill you on the spot, based on descriptions of what he did to people that disobeyed him. Plus, when Samuel went to war, not Samuel, but when Saul, when he was king, when he went to war, Jehovah told him to kill all the people around him. That includes babies. People weren't born yet. I mean, come on. Does that sound like a God? It sounds like a bloodthirsty God. And it shows that God has anger. I mean, that's just a little example. I could go more in detail, but I don't really have the show time and the time right now. But just a little bit, just to brief it, man. I mean, woman, look what it does. It is, yeah. And I was just talking about that example of God commanded the Israelites to kill the other tribes around them. God is destructive and destroys his own creations. God is very destructive. And how can you be, if you're claiming to worship a good God, yet the evidence from your scriptures shows that God is destructive? He kills, he murders. He tells his own people to murder people. Again, how is that God? Even if that was true, I'm not going to serve a God like that. That's inhumane. No wonder why we have crazy cults and these community terrorist people with directed energy weapons hurting people. They believe in some kind of stuff like this. A lot of them do, and they feel like they have a cause. So that's scary. Also, God is obsessed with human sexuality. I mean, if you look at some of the descriptions of what goes on in the Old Testament and narratives, it's like sex, brothers are having sex with sisters, daughters having sex with their fathers. I mean, it's sick. It is sick. This might as well just watch pornography, to be honest with you. Talk about human relations, family relations, and God's more about thinking about the woman and man getting it on. Human sexuality. If you read the descriptions, it's horrific. Also, next one, God has a constant need to be worshipped and feared. That word for feared is not to be scared, but to have respect. God always needs a constant to be worshipped and respected. Again, the definition of a God and the characteristics of what we have in reality about the definition of a God is God does not need to be worshipped. In his own essence, that's good enough. He doesn't need anything. He could exist within himself. He's self-existent. He doesn't need any adoration or any kind of community of admirers. He doesn't need that. So it shows a human characteristic. Also, God displays a desire to dominate and to be obeyed. Again, if you look out throughout the scriptures, the Bible scriptures, he always says, worship me, the Lord thy God, I'm the only God. Like that, he uses that. Worship me. And he wants to be obeyed. And see, you can't question. You cannot question yourself to be obeyed. You can't question, God, why are you saying this? Why are you saying to me to go kill the Jebusites or the Heverites or all the Ites? Why? He doesn't, you can't question. And that's sick. And people, the elite and other people use this kind of doctrine, and they use psychology and conditioning and schemes and marketing techniques to get people to think like this. In the religious sector, you can see the TV preachers. They do this. They use this. This is a trick. It comes from this book and other books like the Quran. I'm not saying all believers are bad. And you can worship who you want, but I'm just giving you an example of how this kind of belief system indoctrinates people to create havoc and chaos. Also, by human standards, God is very unjust. When he deals punishment, he deals it to the max. So, for example, even if the word sin, we committed a sin. For example, I lied or I cheated. For that, if I died without repenting and believing on God's Son, I would spend the rest of my life in eternal hell. But there are some Christian sects that don't believe in hell. But if you look at the New Testament, Jesus taught about a hell. And he believed it in a literal sense. So, God is not just. He punishes people for a little thing. One lie, one thing, or even, something that does not deserve eternal punishment. And that's very barbaric and diabolical, if you ask me. Also, again, God kills humans. Example, those who don't obey him. He sunk, there was a few Israelites in the camp that didn't like how things were going and stuff and questioning. What did God do based on that story? He created a sinkhole, and they died going to the center of the earth. So God does kill humans, if that's true. Also, God feels regret over his actions as well as the human actions. Well, yeah, if you look in the New Testament, in Genesis, before he created the flood, he said, I regret or I repent that I ever made man. Okay then, if you're God in the definition of what God is, in the premises of who God is, you failed that premises. You're not God. Because God makes something wholly complete and perfection based on the essence of who God is. So again, this is not showing that this character is God. And also God is deceptive of the Bible. Because in Thessalonians, he's speaking about this last days scenario. He's saying that he will create a deception and that people will believe a lie over the truth. Again, he fails the criteria of the definition and the essence of and the premises of who God is. A holy, perfect being. A holy and perfect being would not create deception to his creation. That discredits him as a God in the essence of the definition of God. Also, again, God is violent. You look at all these wars. Come on, man. Jeez. Look at all the wars. That shows God is violent. Also, God's character is irrational, and he also has wild mood swings. Yes, let me say this. God is very inconsistent in his promises and what he says. Because he says, again, I'll use the jealousy thing as an example. He says, do not be jealous, basically, to us, his creation. But yet he goes around, I'm a jealous God. He contradicts himself like that. And he's irrational in his thinking. He's very inconsistent. And I understand as we as human beings are inconsistent at times. That's understandable. But again, if God has a mood swing and he creates good and evil as it says in Isaiah, that's very, what is it? Not schizophrenia. What's that other condition with mood swings? I can't think of it right now. But again, if God is irrational and mood swings and he creates good and evil, which are very moody and very diabolical, and then good is dualistic. The definition of God, in the sense of the Christian God, he cannot be dualistic. He cannot have irrational mood swings, and he can't say, I love you, but I hate you. That's very moody. He's bipolar. That's the definition I'm thinking. Bipolar. Again, the definition does not hold up. So he must be a man. A man must have wrote this, not God. Also, God is indifferent to human suffering. There's hundreds of examples on a daily basis. Children dying of hunger, children being raped, people being punished due to race, color, and affiliation. Gender, doesn't matter. I mean, if he was God, like they say, intervene. That's an excuse. That's an excuse for human beings not to do anything. God will intervene. Bullshit. I'm sorry. We need to intervene. I don't mean hatred. I believe in spirituality. But don't call God good as your definition when the proof shows the opposite of who you say God is. Also, God shows cruelty to animals. For example, simple example, the flood. If that's true, based on your story, why in the hell did he flood out animals? What the hell did the animals do to make the creation wicked? I mean, really. Instead, it should say, in the beginning, man created God in his own image. Just think about that. That's why we need to question stuff, brothers and sisters of humanity. If we don't, we're going to end up in the police state we already are. It's getting worse. We need to have dominion over ourselves. We cannot be controlled by this. Look and see and study the definitions and understand. And when you question, then you'll see the real reality of this God of the Bible and other things, and the Quran and all this other stuff. And then you'll see what slavery does. Not just religious, it can be atheistic too. Look at Soviet Union, for example. That's why we need to live in a freedom of state choice and understand how to live and think for ourselves. With that, I am going to go, but I do want to do another plug-in. I want to plug in, what's that place called? I just forgot. I want to plug in the town and health food stores in the Netherlands. They're a good place. Discount prices. They have sales, and they're all over the Netherlands. So if you are in the Netherlands, you ever listen to this podcast, check out the Townin. They're in all the centrums of the shopping places all over the Netherlands. And they do have a website. It's www.detownin. And I don't know exactly how to spell that, so shame on me. But with that, question everything. Think for yourself. Have some faith. And remember, freedom is better than living in slavery and comfort, which is an illusional lie. With that, I'm your host, and have a good day, and be blessed.